If you would like to begin creating princess seams using our torso sloper, I'll give you just a brief beginning point, and from there you can take your liberties that you'd like. I'm going to start by creating my princess line on my front sloper, and I'd like this to go back to being just a half. And so I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to the edit pattern, click on my center front line, and I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to remove one side for now. So I can just focus on half the pattern. Like we did with creating princess lines, it's often most useful to transfer or to rotate this shoulder dart to the side seam. So I'm going to do that. I'm not super worried about where it's going to end up on the side seam because this is going to be rotated back or essentially eliminated. So I'm going to simply highlight my dart, left click or right click to rotate the dart. And I'm going to just go to a point that's a bit below my armhole line. Oops. And then I'm going to aim toward my bust point as usual. I'm going to rotate that dart entirely closed. And I'm going to make my dart length a little bit along the way, not entirely to my bust point. I've got some baselines that need to be cleaned up. I can do that now. I'm going to leave that point there because that's going to give me a place to begin my princess line segmentation. So if I want to go from the shoulder to the bust point and down below, I'm going to create an internal line that connects all the points. So within our internal polygon line tool, I'm going to begin up here at my shoulder, click once. I'm going to go right to the center of my bust point, click once, click at the apex of my fisheye dart, click at the bottom of my fisheye dart, and then click straight down perpendicular to my hem and double click to finish. So now I've got a continuous line. In Edit Pattern, I can then click on all those segments with a shift to select them all and right click to cut. If you're having trouble cutting these, it might be because you haven't connected them all or you haven't selected all the lines. So with this nice cut line, you can start to see the princess line emerging. And I do want to transfer the intake of this dart to the bust mound to give us a little bit more ease in that area. And so now that we're just going to rotate that dart by selecting them both and rotate. I'm going to open up my dart here, point it in this direction, and close down that side dart entirely. I don't mind seeing the dart opening because it reminds me that it's there. And you can see that I've done just kind of the same thing I did before. I opened up that, that shoulder dart, but I have transferred that value to this bust point, which gives me a little bit more ease there. Okay, now I'm going to back up. Before I open that dart, it actually is a wise thing, and I should have done this before, by adding a notch that's 2 inches above that bust point before I do the rotation. So hopefully you can back up too. I'm going to hover over my line, right click and do a 2-inch notch there. And I'm going to do a 2-inch notch here. If you think about it before you even make your cut of your princess line, they can notch together if you only notch it once. And I'm going to do the second one down below here, but to do that, I need to delete this point here. Okay, so my second notch will be 2 inches below my bust point there. And I may, oops, I didn't do that. I meant to do a right click so I can do a precision box. And now I'm going to marquee over all of them, right click and add a point to those notches just so I can more easily measure them afterwards. Now I can go ahead and rotate my dart to that center point, and I've got some guide points for sewing. Rotate, Again, select that point at the bust mound, guideline rotation, close off my side seam, and my dart length I'll keep. Now when I go in, I can go ahead and delete that point, delete the point at my side seam. I can delete this point if I'd like, or I can just begin curving all those points there using my smooth curve function. So with smooth curve this time, I'm going to grab that point, grab it, oops, not that one, grab it and begin pulling. And that's a pretty good curve. So these are my bust points here. I can leave them, or I can convert them all to curve points, the marquee around them, and a right click. Now when I have to sew these together, I'll check my sewing. You can see there's a lot of stuff going on here. This is a dart remnant. I can delete that sewing. I can adjust this sewing so it just goes to my notches. Right, I've added points there to do that. And then everywhere else needs to have segment sewing. So I'm going to segment sew this one to this one to this one. You can see there's about a 0.6 inch difference, which is good for ease. And this one to this one. Okay, so let's see what it looks like on our avatar. I'm going to go ahead and unfold with symmetrical editing and sewing. And now I'm going to symmetrical pattern with sewing for my side seam piece. And let's take a look. So now the sewing hopefully remains on her shoulder seams, and we can go ahead and simulate. Lovely. Now, one other thing you may want to do, if you don't want to keep this secondary internal dart, is transfer that dart intake to this one we're maintaining. So I do know that there's a 1/4 inch on either side. So if I shift that value here and move this inward by a 1/4 inch, 0.25, I can do the same here. Shift that value, 0.25. Now all of that intake is accounted for, and I can just delete this entire dart. Okay, so we can see what effect that has on our dress here. Okay, so there's no more dart there, and we still have pretty reasonable shaping. It could be a bit more fitted, but it's not bad. It's a good place to start. Okay, so hopefully that gives you the tools you need to do other princess lines. If you would like to have a line that begins at the armhole, you would transfer to the side seam. Actually, I'm going to get to that point. Transfer to the side seam, the armhole, and then transfer the dart to the side seam, and then draw your line from the armhole, and then rotate. Or you can do it from your neckline, or you could even do it to the center front if you want to have a seam line in the front. So there you have it, creating princess lines from our torso slipper.